Head cinema. I put my hands up. No, wait, I told Max. I didn't do anything. Max took a step toward me, and I took 2 steps back. I saw you, he said. You twisted the knobs. You did it on purpose. I did the German look, hoping nobody else had heard him. Max and I were on the other side of the AA gun, the thundering, booming AA gun, and nobody else was around. But any minute, Max was going to tell the others, unless I went on the offensive. I lunged for Max, grabbing his right arm and twisting it behind his back. He cried out in pain, then started to holler for help. I wrenched his arm up higher. Don't, I said, or I'll break it. Max writhed in my grip. You'll never get away with this, he said. He was probably right, but I didn't see any other way out. Who's the scientist you're supposed to kill? I asked. Max went still, and I felt lightheaded. So I'd been right. Fritz and Max and Ottmar and Erhard had been training to kill an Allied scientist. I don't know what you're talking about, Max said. I twisted his arm. Tell me. Max cried out. I glanced around, but we were still alone, the big AA gun shielding us from being heard or seen, for now. Okay, it's some Jewish scientist, Max spat out. Who? I said, wrenching his arm again. Goldsmith. Hendrik Goldsmith. When? Where? At some science conference somewhere. I don't know. They haven't told us where or when, I swear. Why you? Why Fritz or Erhard or Ottmar? I don't know, Max said. Maybe because I can speak English. I was surprised. You speak English? Max swore at me in the king's English, and I had to admit he was pretty good at it. My mind reeled. I had to tell my parents a man named Hendrik Goldsmith was the target as soon as I could. But I had to meet Simon first, help him get out of Berlin. What time was it? And what was I going to do about Max? Max took advantage of my reverie. He slammed the heel of his boot down on my toe and making me jump. He twisted himself around and slipped free, clutching at his injured arm as he staggered back from me. I could run now, get away while the others had to stay at their posts, but then Max would rat me out and my whole career as a spy would be over. I could never come back. I'd have to leave Germany with Simon, if that was even possible. And what about my parents? How would they get out of Berlin? Would they be captured? Killed? Worse? The Germans have a great word for seeing everything that can go wrong play out in your head. They call it Kopfkino, head cinema. And what I saw playing out on the movie screen in my head was the end of everything. I yanked my Hitler Youth dagger from its sheath. Max's eyes went wide, as if he couldn't believe I might really be an enemy agent, even though he'd caught me sabotaging the gun. He fumbled at the snap on his dagger's sheath. I could have jumped him then, but I hesitated. Could I really do this? Could I really kill another person in cold blood? Max drew his dagger, took a step toward me, and then Max exploded. A huge piece of shrapnel, the shredded tip of a destroyed British bomber's wing, we later found out, fell out of the sky and ripped Max in two like he was made of paper. But Max wasn't made of paper. He was made of flesh and blood and bone that exploded all over me and knocked me to the ground. 1 second he was there snarling at me, and the next second he was just gone. The horror of what I'd seen, what I would never, ever be able to unsee, made me vomit and collapse to my knees. The stink of blood and guts and vomit filled my head, and I thought I was going to pass out. I was shaking so badly I almost couldn't move, but I had to get as far away from the carnage as I could. I dragged myself around to the other side of the gun, where the other boys were still working. Fritz saw me covered with blood and ran to me. I pointed to the other side of the AA gun, and some of the boys went to look. They came back crying and pale, and more than one of them bent over the AA gun's spidery legs to retch. I shook with both horror and guilt. I had wanted to keep Max from telling on me for sabotaging the AA gun, for pumping him for information about the science team, and now he was dead. It was hard not to think I'd caused it somehow, that my wishing him quiet had killed him. Dully, I remembered I was supposed to be somewhere else. I wiped Max's blood from the glass on my wristwatch. 3:40. It would take me longer than 5 minutes to get to my rendezvous with Simon. I was going to be late. I turned to go, and that was when the Edelweiss pirates attacked.